My name is Rosemary Orozco. I am Dylan's only sister. I'm from Gibson. I was raised here my whole life.
I'm Eleanor Surdam. I am Dylan's first cousin, but I was raised with him in Emmett and in New Plymouth by our grandpa.
Go ahead. Andy.
Evelyn.
I don't know if I'm going to talk. So.
Yeah, you go ahead.
My name's Evelyn Tindore. I'm Dylan's cousin. We grew up together. I'm his older sister, cousin.
Indian way.
Indian way. His mom is my auntie, and I am from here in Fort Hall, Idaho.
I'm Lilli Tindore Wellington. I'm Dylan's mom. And I'm from Fort Hall, Shoshone Bannock tribal member. And I just want you guys to know what happened in the events of my son's murder. So I'll be speaking as to that after the introduction.
My name is Fred Nilsson, Dylan's father, Shoban, affiliated tribe. Like Lilli said, just want to kind of get it out there what went on with him. Yeah.
I'm Margaret Rojo Alvarez. I'm Dylan's aunt. I'm from the Fort Hall Indian Reservation.
I wanted to speak about what happened in the events of my son's murder. Dylan was murdered on January 7th, 2022. A year before that, he had been threatened, and one of my cousins let me know that the girl that did this, she had planned to get my son jumped, and I don't know how far they were going to take it, but they warned me to let my son know, and I did, and he said she wouldn't do that to him. So at that point, he was just watching out, keeping an eye out, and knew that something was going to happen, because he would write it in his Facebook that he felt he was being set up. And maybe 2 weeks before this happened, he was jumped, and I had to go get him. He called me, and I went to go get him. He's like, "Mom, I'm going to lose my signal. My phone's ready to die. Come and get me." And he sent me his location, and I went outside, and his brother just pulled up, and I told him, we have to go get your brother. He got jumped. And he's like, "Mom, where's he at?" And I told him. So we went there, and he went a separate way. I went a separate way, and it was like blizzarding and sleet and snow, and you couldn't even see outside. And I just went as fast as I could over there, and I opened my windows because I couldn't see outside, and I could see the locator, meeting. And in fact, I passed him, and he's like, "Mom." So I stopped, and he jumped in, and he was beat up and bloody and wet and cold. And he got in, and he's like, "Mom, just take me over here. I gotta go check out my girlfriend." And I said, "No, I can't do that. She's the one that did this to you, son. Please just go with me home. I want you to be safe." So I wouldn't take him there, and all the way home he didn't say a word. I didn't ask him, and we just got home, and he got cleaned up, and he wanted to take my car, and I said no. And so he left. He walked away. It was, like I said, still blizzarding, but he could handle the cold, so he left. And I didn't know he left. And the next morning I got up, and I went into the living room, and he just walks in the door with that girl and her brother. And I didn't know what to say. I just went back in my room, and And then I messaged him, because I didn't want to say nothing in front of her. I said, son, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to go with her and I'll be back. And so that's kind of almost the last time I seen him. 2 weeks later, the day before he got killed, he calls me again and he's like, Mom, I'm over here at this motel and can you come and get me? And I said, what happened, Sonny? And he's like, I beat up her brother and I'm cold and I need you to come get me right now. And I said, okay, I'm coming. And I jumped in the car, left, got him. And I asked him, Sonny, why are you dressed like that? He had on shorts, a sweatshirt, a little sweatshirt, his tennis shoes. And I said, where's all your clothes? When you left, you had boots on and you were warm clothes. What happened to your stuff? And he's like, it's at her house. And I said, well, let's go get it. And he's like, no, just take me home. So I took him home, and again he was asking me for my car, and his brother told me, don't let him take the car, Mom, because then he won't have any way to go. And I told him, your brother's gonna leave either way. He's like, just don't let him take the car, Mom. I don't want him to be, I want him to think about it and not go, So I didn't let him. And that was the last time I seen him. And then the next day, about 11:30 that night, I got a call from my sister that she said that she got a call from that girl's mom that my son had been stabbed and that he was on Sheepskin Road. So I told my son, Storm, I said, we gotta go get your brother, he's on Sheepskin Road. And he's like, okay, Mom, let's go. And so we jumped in. Neither one of us had coats on. It was cold out. And we jumped in his truck. We started heading to Sheepskin Road. And Margaret calls me back, my sister, and she said, no, sister, he's dead. He's on agency. So we turned around. And then we went the opposite direction towards the road we call Bat Lane, and we went there. There was a car there, and we pulled up behind it, and my son's like, no, Mom, that's not him. I know that's not him. So we backed up, and when we backed up, we looked down the other direction of agency, and we could see all the cop cars. So my son's like, Mom, he's like, I'm going to take you home. He said, I'm going to go down there myself because I don't know what's happening, and I don't trust anyone. And I said, well, you take your uncle with you because he was at my house, my cousin. And so he said, okay. So he let me out, and I ran in, and I got my brother, and I said, go out with your nephew and go to where the cops are. And he's like, okay. So he went out, and he went to go around the corner, and he fell on the ice. And when my son seen him fall, he just left by himself. And so I guess he went to the scene, and he got stopped by the Fish and Game, and it happened to be his cousin, and he told him, no, brother, you don't want to see him like that. And he's like, you need to go. He's like, I don't want, you to be upset and anything to happen to you. He said, you just need to go home. So my son he left the scene, but at the same time when that happened, my daughter came and got me, her and my niece Shanae, and we all went to the scene. And when we got there, they had a car stopped to a point where we couldn't go back farther to where this, it had happened, or where he was at. And I asked the officer, well, is my son okay? Are you guys calling the ambulance? What's going on, And he's like, I don't know. I have no idea. He's like, you have to wait for the detective. And so we're standing there waiting, and I see one of my cousins walk by, which is very suspicious. And she was crying. And I told my daughter, what the F is she doing here? And, my daughter's like, Mom, just It's okay, just don't worry. And we waited for the detective to get there. So he walks up to us and he's like, who are you? And I knew this officer, you know, known him my whole life. He's like, who are you? And I said, I'm Lilli Tindore Wellington. And then my daughter said, Todd, this is Lilli, you know her, and she's my mom, and this is Dylan's mom. What's going on? And he's like, oh. And he's like, well, I want to tell you your son's dead. And that's exactly how we said it. That's exactly how he put it. And when those words came out of his mouth, I just screamed. And I fell to the ground. And I was crying and saying no. And the officer tells my daughter to get me out of there. He said, your mom's causing a scene. And my daughter was mad because he was being so rude. But she did take me and we went home. And that whole week it was like a fog, you know. I don't even remember who seen me or who came to my house, but I was just going through the motions. And so that night, apparently, they took all of these people. There was apparently 6 more people in the vehicle, including my son, so 7 altogether. And that's right, I did ask the officer, what are you doing? Are you guys arresting them? And he said, yes, they're all going to jail. So with that, I thought, okay, they're all going to be charged. A few days later, my ex here, he called the police station, and because they didn't even contact us. They didn't ask me or the dad, when's the last time you seen Dylan? You know, nothing. No questions. Nobody interviewed us. We're left in the dark trying to figure this out ourselves. And then when we are coming to our own conclusions, then they're telling us we're wrong. Even though we heard it straight from the mouths of the people some of them that were, you know, involved or firsthand knowledge or whatever. And so it just wasn't right the way they handled it. And one of the detectives that told me that night what happened, he was the main guy, and you know, that was supposed to be, you know, investigating, and he wasn't investigating it. They had the Federal Bureau of Investigation doing it, and they did a very sloppy job. They didn't, you know, I never even heard or seen any tape up over there where he was last found at. And in fact, that wasn't exactly where he got killed at. I guess they had taken him from a scene in Bronco Road, and I guess that my son has seen that girl making eyes with the guy that, you know, killed my son. And so he was mad, and he told her, get in the car, we're going. And I believe that when he got in the car, that guy jumped in behind him to where my son, in a blind spot where he didn't know he was behind him. And so there was all them people, 5 people in the back, and the driver was his girlfriend, and Dylan was in the passengers. And I believe that at that time they took him down the road when they was on the highway. Then I believe that her brothers held my son while that other guy stabbed him. And then they rode around with him for hours until he bled out. And then they took him to that house, and they got out of the vehicle, and they were all partying. And my cousin that was there that I had seen, I told you she was crying, she told me that when she got there, she was checking on her daughter, because she has a daughter with the guy's house that was, and she said that he wasn't there, the father, but she seen them guys out there, and she's like, what are you guys doing? And then they're all, oh, we're just having a few drinks, you know. She's all, well, who's that in the car? And they're all, oh, that's Dylan Tindore. And she's like, oh, that's my nephew. I'm going to go see him. And she went over to the vehicle, and my son was there, deceased. And she said, she got out and she told them, what are you guys doing? Are you guys crazy? Take him to the hospital. Take him to the PD. Call EMTs. Do something, you know? And then she said it was like they all turned on her, and they were all like in their 20s, you know? They all turned on her, and they were going to come after her. And I guess in that time frame, somebody had called the police. So when they were like coming at her, she went to jump the fence, and the police pulled in. So they all spread out, but they got those individuals. And one of the main guys that did it, he got away. So they were looking for him. But it's wrong that they let those other people go. I feel like our police department is like, you know, and I hate to say it, but it's true. They're like the good old boy system, you know. That girl's father worked there before, her uncle. They were officers, and they let them go. They let them all go. And in fact, one of the girls that was there, she had the nerve to come to the funeral, and we didn't even know. Me or Dylan's dad, we didn't know that she was involved, and she in fact hugged my ex, and you know, she was the one saying, don't call 911, let him die. And she had the nerve to come to the funeral. But they charged him in tribal court with like little misdemeanor charges, and he got charged and convicted for assault and battery, aggravated, I believe, disorderly conduct, illegal consumption, 2 other charges. They were just weak charges, you know, and he got 6 months and a $500 fine for taking my son's life. And right now we're waiting on federal court, and it's been, they keep, you know, having a new court date, and nobody's communicating with, you know, Fred or I. They're not saying nothing. They're leaving us in the dark, and we, like I said, we have to come to our own conclusions as to what happened. And so we'll hear, you know, a new story each time, and it's not right, and because nobody's telling us what's going on. And I just want justice for my son. I just want them to all pay for what they did. They took my grandson's father. He has 3 boys. His oldest is 15 or 14, and then his middle son is 13, and the youngest is just turned 8. And his oldest son is always messaging us and checking on us. He's worried that something's gonna happen, and it's stressing him out. And he's only, you know, 14 years old. I mean, it's taking, you know, from him, and it's depressing him, and he's just suffering, and he's in South Dakota when he should be here with us because he's so worried. And I don't want him to suffer like that. But I want justice, and I want, you know, this to be an example. I want things to turn around. I want somebody to do something, you know, in federal court. They charged him with involuntary manslaughter. That's all, for taking my son's life. And in the way they did it, it was wrong. He had no idea that was going to go down. My son was real tough. He was such a good guy. He took care of everybody. I mean, he walked this whole res on foot. he'd go to house and see somebody in need, and he'd say, you want me to help? I'll help you. And they'd offer him money. He'd say, no, I'm just doing it. That's what we're supposed to do. It was traditional that way, and he was a ball player. He even played in basketball, football, baseball. He went to Riverside Indian School, and he graduated in 2007. And, he'd done nothing wrong to deserve this, other than protecting people. And that's what he was about. And when we had his funeral, and we had a service in Blackfoot in the evening, and there was so many people there. And during the funeral, they said there was over 300 people there. And, that's a good turnout for our people. I mean, it's never like that. But that just showed how much love people had for him. And people spoke about him at the service in Blackfoot, and they all had nothing but good things to say. And my son was the type that he'd call everybody, brother, sister, auntie, uncle. I raised him that way. He knew how to set up a teepee. He knew how to do funeral services traditionally, Sundance. I mean, he would do sweats. His grandpa taught him that. He was a hunter. I mean, his dad was the same. They were both, my sons are that way. They're men. They're actual men. And I told that guy that when I had our victims impact statement, you came to this fight with a knife, and you should have used your fists, because only a weak person would use a weapon. And I want you to know that you're not a man. You're weak. And I want you to suffer and think about this every day. I don't know if he took that into light or anything, because he probably didn't. And he probably figures he's going to get let go. That's why they keep continuing the court date, continuing it. Because he's saying he don't have any defense, It's just, a way to keep the truth from coming out. And I doubt he'll ever say it. Because look at how they treated him. They let all those guys go that were involved. They're walking around, smiling, laughing, partying, doing whatever. Nobody's making them accountable. I just want my son's life to have meant something to them. Because he deserved that. And I never, ever in this world thought my son would be taken. And I know he's with me every day, he comes to me at our house. And I believe that he's, still watching over us. And people tell me, you keep grieving for him and you're not letting him go, but I can't. I can't let him go. He's my baby. I just want justice for my son. So that's why we're here. Thank you.
That's funny that Mom said he didn't ever ask anybody for anything except for me. It was always, Sissy, got a couple of bucks. Sissy, go take me to get a smoke. Sissy, can I use your car? And he used to come over to my work every day and, Sissy, can I use your car? And I'm like, yeah, just be back at 5. And 5:30, he'd come rolling up. Sorry, Sissy. There's all these little different nuances about him that I don't care that was his girlfriend. She didn't know him. She didn't know my brother. She knew what she wanted to see out of him, but she didn't know him. She didn't know his heart. and she didn't know his impact and how special he was to our family. You know, I mean, I didn't get to grow up with my brothers. I was raised by my grandma. My mom was really young when she had me, and so, you know, my grandma was really attached to me, so she let my grandma raise me, and, you know, she made that sacrifice as a mom. And, you know, I didn't get to grow up around my brothers, but they always knew I was their sister. I'm their only sister. And anytime Dylan saw me, it's, "Hi, Sissy, what are you doing? I love you, I miss you." The last things we said to each other was, "I love you." He was, you know, he had his flaws, he had his faults, and no one's trying to say he was perfect, but, you know, he got into trouble like boys do. He wasn't a bad person. He got in with the wrong people. But Dylan was a special person, and literally everybody loved him. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him or ugly about him. You know, I mean, I even ran into my best friend's little brother, and, you know, he knew Dylan when they were younger, and, you know, we were talking about him, and he's like, he was such a good guy. He's like, he was just a really good guy. And, you know, I don't think that they understand that they let their lust or whatever it was overshadow that he was a person. He was a son and a brother and a father, and he was so loved. And I just think their blindness and maybe their jealousy that, you know, they were never going to be what he was. Dylan mattered in this community. This community loved him. And they don't even know these other people. They don't even know who they are. They're like, you know, who even is this guy? I know who he is. I actually worked with his grandmother. I know who he is. And I feel like little by little he is getting his comeuppance. He actually was in jail when his own mother passed away, and he wasn't able to get out for the funeral. And I really hope that God will forgive me, but I felt some justice in my heart. He took my brother from me.
That was 2 weeks later.
It was 2 weeks after we buried Dylan. His mother passed away, and he didn't get out. He didn't get to go see her, say his goodbyes. And I felt justice because I didn't get to say goodbye to my brother either. I worked at the courthouse, and he sat back there every day at my job, and I had to go to that building every single day with my brother's murderer sitting in the back, eating and drinking and laughing and watching TV. And I had to sit there for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, knowing he was back there. And that was really hard. It was really hard to maintain my composure every single day, having to work feet from where he was. And I know that there won't be the justice that we want for Dylan. He won't see justice with the courts. They don't value us as Native people. The FBI in Pocatello, they treat our cases like nothing. There was a girl who was murdered out here, and she was beheaded, and they said it was suicide. So I don't have any faith in the system that I used to work for. I don't work for them anymore. And I'll never go back because I saw the injustice that my brother got, and they didn't care. They didn't care what this boy took from my family. My family is destroyed. My mom's broken. My brother's broken. The kids are broken. My nephew calls me and he says, "Auntie, how did my dad die?" And I'm not going to lie to him, and I have to tell him what happened to his dad. Because he wants to know the truth, and he deserves the truth. And the truth is that his dad was murdered in absolute cold blood, and he was driven around, and they had every opportunity to roll him out at home over at the fire station, at PD, call his family something. It's murder. It's not an accident. It's not a fight. It's murder because they let him die and he was probably so scared. And that's all I can think about is how scared my little brother was. And how betrayed he felt by this woman who he gave his heart to. He didn't deserve that. He deserved to live a long life. He deserved to go out as an old man, hunting by himself, doing something stupid. That's how my brother deserved to live his life, the beautiful way he lived it. He did not deserve the death that he got. And I know he'll never see justice in a court of law, but I know that God has something in store for every single one of those people, and that's the justice that I'm waiting for. Everybody okay?
I just wanted to add that when my family was coming to me, my different nephews, and they would ask me, Auntie, do you want us to go after him? And I always would tell them, no, I don't want nothing to happen to you. I'm just giving it to Creator, and I want him to deal with it. It's not for us to do, because that's not our way. And so that's what I can't say whether they will or not. It's just up to what they do. But that's what I did ask them. And I just don't want another life in jeopardy. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, someone else.